If you want to believe that the European dream is relevant to today's youth, I'm not going to stop you. But then you're going to have to talk to them. What you're going to find is that they are afraid of immigration, that they're afraid of globalization, that they're afraid they're not going to get a job, that they're going to have to depend on their parents but also support their parents in some bizarre, paradoxical, contradictory way.
In creating this dream out of the conflict that we saw in the 20th century, somebody forgot to do the mathematics. Somebody forgot to point out that living longer, working less, earning more, only works if you can persuade someone else to pay for the privilege. If ever anybody fiddled while Rome burned, it was the politicians of the last 25 years who pretended that this dream was still relevant and could continue in the same ways that had existed before.
Think about a 25-year-old today. They were born in 1988. They don't remember the Berlin Wall. What they remember is the bursting of the dot-com bubble. What they remember is that every year since they finished their secondary education, Europe has been mired in a deepening recession, if not depression, and crisis. In fact, if you look at the young today, you find that they vote overwhelmingly not to participate in democracy, or to participate through political movements that are anti-elite, anti-immigrant, and at times even anti-democratic institutions. You can tell I live in Italy, where Beppe Grillo and his five-star political movement seems determined to bring down the very functioning of the Italian state.
And you're the father of 3 young children. What are you telling them?
It's going to be fine, guys. I mean, you say we don't have the prosperity. I said Greece has more than double the income per capita of Russia, China, and Brazil. So if we don't have the prosperity, how is anyone in China ever going to get married? We are going to be okay. Some things in Europe today are not sustainable. It wasn't sustainable that people retired in their 50s. And you know what? They won't anymore. That's ending. We had an era, and people made hay, and now things are going to change. And people are going to live to 82, longer than anywhere else. And so they will work until they're 65. And even France is moving that way.
So I know unemployment and I know uncertainty, although I wouldn't claim to be anything other than immensely privileged and very fortunate in my experience of both. And we're certainly right to be concerned about youth unemployment. But I also know this. The problem is not unique to Europe. Lehman Brothers wasn't a European-only problem. Half the world's young people, it was estimated, are outside the formal economy or underutilized. The number of unemployed young people in the OECD is a third greater than 2007. It's not just Europe. I know something else. These problems are not insoluble. We know that low growth, inflexible labor markets, and an outdated education system, sorry Oxford, that's leading to a skills gap between people leaving school and university and going into the workforce. We know that these are problems we can solve. It just takes political will.
Until we recognize their perspective, we cannot convince them to believe in what is actually possible, and we'll squander this generation in a way that the greatest generation would not appreciate at all.
The European dream, as Eric said, is a lot more than the EU, and it's a lot more than just this economic moment, which will end.
The vote is in. The undecideds at the start were 32%. They are at the end just 7%. The yeses at the start, 22%. You are now up to 36%. The noes, i.e. that the dream is still relevant, was 46% at the start and is now up to 57%. The motion is defeated.